Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. Today we are going to have a discussion about something that went down with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and comedian Alex Stein on the steps of the Capitol, and we're going to talk about how this thing blew up to a scale not imaginable, definitely not by Alex Stein, and ultimately became a national news story and will further incentivize people to walk up to members of Congress and make comments about their body. But before we get into this, before we talk about this, we have a sponsor today. I'm going to throw it over to the sponsor, and then we'll talk about this on the other side. A study involving 1,100 people recently demonstrated that collagen supplements are one of the most effective ways to reduce the signs of aging. This study showed that just taking collagen supplements for 90 days can help with wrinkles, can help with joint and ligament issues, your hair growth or the appearance and thickness of your hair, and all sorts of other things. And one of the great things about this study is that it ties in beautifully to my sponsor, Health with Justice. This collagen powder is absolutely amazing. You take it, you can get 51% off with my link, healthwithjustice.com. Try it for 60 days, and if you don't feel like you have de-aged to the point where you're satisfied, you just send it back. That's right, take all the powder over the course of 60 days, and if you're not feeling it, if you don't like your baby soft skin, send it to the collagen people and say no more. So Alex Stein is a comedian, a satirist, whatever you want to call him in the political realm, with obviously a right-leaning perspective. And he decided, as a part of his shtick, before he was going to a comedy show that ultimately ended up being canceled later, that he was going to wait around the Capitol steps. He spotted Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, he pulled out his phone, and then the following happened.
AOC, my favorite big booty Latina. I love you, AOC. You're my favorite. She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. You look very beautiful in that dress. You look very sexy. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
I want to do a little selfie.
I love it. My favorite AOC. Nice to meet you, AOC. Look how sexy she looks in that dress. Woo, I love it, AOC. Hot, hot, hot like a tamale.
Now look, Stein is a comedian, and I understand why people find that funny. However, I am a New Yorker, I've seen this kind of behavior in a non-comedic context before, and it greatly resembles catcalling. So I can understand why Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, somebody from Westchester with no real connection to New York City, would be bothered by this because she hasn't experienced it much in her life. Just kidding. I understand why women get annoyed by this, and I think it's actually sensible for her to have a negative reaction to Alex Stein. That being said, what was amazing about this story is that this video was treated as this giant national incident, and Ocasio-Cortez immediately escalated to exaggerating the incident in her own Instagram video.
Hey everybody, I'm here in the Capitol. See this guy right there? Right there. When I was walking up, he said, hey, right in front of a Capitol police officer, said, hey, here's this, look at that big ass, look at that big juicy booty, this Latina, like whatever, you know, all the bunch of racist, sexist stuff. And since nobody can do anything, I'm just telling you because this institution is not designed to protect people. And it's really hard and it's really sad that my only recourse is to just let you know about it, but that's the institution we're in.
Now, to be as fair as possible to Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, what she said in her video is similar enough that you can give her a pass to what Alex Stein said. However, it is very notably and greatly exaggerated during the course of her video. On top of that, one of the funniest parts of this whole scenario actually occurs in Ocasio-Cortez's Instagram video when she pans over to show the person that was attacking her, who of course is Alex Stein. And when I say attacking, I mean speaking to her in a coarse way. And Alex Stein smiles and waves at her like he's a child. If you had any distinction of what was going on in this scenario, that Alex Stein was clearly trolling her and getting exactly what he wanted and timing this wave so perfectly that it just makes me crack up every time I see it, then this makes it obvious. This was not intended to intimidate Ocasio-Cortez. It was clearly for attention, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, through exaggeration, ended up churning a scenario where Alex Stein would have looked bad, goofy, whatever you want to say, if she just didn't react or reacted in a much better way, into this overly dramatic national news story ripe with exaggerations and absurdities when you think about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, everybody's been pulling up the quotes of AOC talking about how you need to do protests in a way that makes the representatives uncomfortable. Everybody's been pulling up quotes from AOC, again from Twitter from like a month before, about how it's okay after somebody who tried to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh for people to show up and protest him at a restaurant because he should never have a moment's of peace. But honestly, that's just one level of the hypocrisy. The other thing that we have to point out is that Ocasio-Cortez is an insane person. She says insane things. If you remember way back when Ben Shapiro challenged her to debate and said that he was going to put up $10,000 for whatever charity she chooses if she decides to go into the debate, and AOC called that catcalling from Ben Shapiro, well, this was an example that you could clearly label catcalling, so of course Ocasio-Cortez labeled it violent threats against her person.
Or protest or anything like that. He was engaged in very clearly sexually threatening, aggressive behavior right in front, on the Capitol steps in front of an officer, and he wasn't even asked to take a step back.
I believe we call this in the business of internet commentary snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, fumbling at the 1-yard line, failing in every possible way all the time. Yes, that is Ocasio-Cortez. You can say a lot of things about Alex Stein's joke. You could say it's not funny. You could say it is catcalling. You could say it borders on the cusp of sexual harassment and therefore it's inappropriate. However, you can't say that he was violently threatening Ocasio-Cortez, who, by the way, walked over to him to take a picture with him, and then she says she regretted not physically assaulting him based on him saying those things to her. On top of that, there was another hilarious component of this because AOC's losses keep stacking up on a situation that was ripe for her victory. She actually posted on Instagram asking men in this situation, what would you do in response to somebody doing this? Now, this became extra funny, not for the answers given to Ocasio-Cortez in this situation, but for the fact that we found out later that this man walking with Ocasio-Cortez is actually her fiance, and he was way more fixated on making sure he walked the dog than protecting his woman. So when she posts out, real men, what would you do in this scenario? It's hard to not think that she might be slapping her own boyfriend across the face on social media for doing nothing except for walking her very small dog. Which also highlights another crucial point in this story, which is, of course, if the boyfriend would have stepped up in this scenario and gotten in Alex Stein's face, even though I'm somebody who likes Alex Stein, I met him once very briefly, he seemed like a nice enough fellow, and don't like Ocasio-Cortez because, you know, I'm not in support of communists in the American Congress. Most people, including myself, would have said he would have been within his rights to confront the person who was commenting on the woman that he's seeing. However, he didn't do that. He just walked the dog, didn't acknowledge it, totally cowardly move in that scenario, and this move is highlighted by the fact that Ocasio-Cortez was asking the real men out there in the world, what would you do in this scenario if this happened to your lady? Now, I'd like to say that this story ends pretty much here, but there's still some notable comedic takes that I found on the internet.com, like Bill O'Reilly actually tweeting out that this was inappropriate conduct, even though Bill O'Reilly is the guy who personally paid $32 million to an employee of Fox News in a settlement because of sexual harassment allegations, and those allegations included claims of a non-consensual sexual relationship. So Bill O'Reilly, of all the people in the United States of America, the guy who got kicked off of Fox News when it was exposed that you were paying all these different women huge, enormous sums to settle sexual harassment and sexual abuse allegations, you can't comment on the things that Ocasio-Cortez had said to her. And again, I do want to note that as per the terms of whatever settlement, Bill O'Reilly did not acknowledge fault in that instance. However, when you pay somebody $32 million to make them go away on these kind of allegations, it would seem like to an observer from the outside that maybe, just a little bit, just a teensy bit, it is possible that there was something to those allegations to which Bill O'Reilly felt the need to settle those allegations with a $32 million payment from his personal account to the account of this woman. Just maybe. I know I might sound like a conspiracy theorist. I know you might think the tinfoil hat must be on. I might have just gone full Alex Jones, but I think I consider, and possibly it could be a situation where Bill O'Reilly maybe did something questionable. Maybe something a little bit more than catcalling. I don't think you pay $32 million for catcalling. But the thing is, the story actually gets even more ridiculous when you think about it in the context of American politics. So I will say, first and foremost, and I said it at the beginning of this video, so let me reiterate that, I don't like catcalling. I actually don't think that this is the best comedic thing. The results of this ultimately ended up being far more comedic, but had the reaction been different, Alex Stein would have clearly been the loser in this scenario. However, the idea that this is the most or even on par with some of the crazy sexually related stuff and harassment that members of Congress have had to deal with from people calling themselves comedians is absurd in every possible way. I seem to remember there was a film, it was called Bruno, and it starred satirist from the UK and comedian Sacha Baron Cohen. Now, for those of you who don't know, Bruno's character, played by Sacha Baron Cohen, is an over-the-top gay person reporting on stuff in the United States of America. And during the course of the filming of the movie, and this was something that they put in the trailer because they were so proud of it, Sacha Baron Cohen, dressed as this Bruno character, got an interview with Congressman Ron Paul, and during the course of this interview, for comedic purposes, the lights went out, and then he asked Ron Paul to come with him into the room, which turned out to be a hotel room. And of course, this then resulted in him playing music and taking off his pants in front of Ron Paul, because, you know, sexual harassment against an elderly congressman, totally funny, totally A+, taking off your pants and borderline exposing yourself to him, and then getting up and getting close enough to touch him, no big deal. It's all for jokes, JK LOL. It's all good in the neighborhood, because this situation, of course, involved dudes. Now, to be clear, I'm not trying to do a false equivalency. I'm not saying these two incidents are equivalent. What I'm clearly saying is that the Sacha Baron Cohen incident, by this standard, would actually be sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, and maybe even a crime if you looked at it outside of the comedic context. All I'm pointing out is that when people are political satirists, when people are political comedians, we tend to give them way more leeway in the past, especially when it involves males, than we would currently when it involves a female.
Or protest or anything like that. He was engaged in very clearly sexually threatening, aggressive behavior.
If the words said to Ocasio-Cortez are sexually violent threats, then I guess that what Sacha Baron Cohen did to Ron Paul was sexual assault. Prosecute him, throw him in jail against a congressional official, get him out of here. I know the statute of limitations still extends to this day. It's a wrap for you, Sasha. Game over, bro. So overall, I guess the conclusion of this video is congratulations to one Mr. Alex Stein, because even though it was kind of a dead bit, even though it didn't seem all that interesting, you picked your target well, because Ocasio-Cortez's reaction, her overreaction, and her insanity led to very comedic results. I mean, one of the things that she ultimately ended up doing was talking about how the police at the Capitol let the people into the Capitol on January 6th. Where were you January 6th? I was in a car dealership trying to buy a car, and then the guy told me that frame damage isn't actually serious damage. And then I looked up at the television, and what did I see? January 6th was happening. Our republic was getting frame damage. Democracy around the world nearly ground to a halt. Where were you January 6th? Where were you? I was in a car dealership trying to buy a car. Let me know, where were you? Where were you January 6th? Let me know down in the comments, down in the comments, down in the comments below.
These insurrectionists,
like Antifa,
and that there were actual officers working with this, and we never got to the bottom of that, and we never got any answers about that, and then to this day we're just supposed to pretend that that never happened.
What about Antifa?
I have no idea what happened to the people on the inside who were very clearly sympathetic with what was going on and opening the doors wide open for that. And I'm supposed to sit here and pretend like none of that ever happened, and then right afterwards you have a massive, you just have this idea that throwing money at that problem is going to make it go away without any accountability. And so this is where these things are breaking down. We're not safe. And it's not just about members of Congress not being safe. The food staff workers aren't safe. The janitors aren't safe. Like, we need to get to the bottom of this. So that's all I got to say.
What about Antifa?
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Let's get to the bottom of it. Antifa, please.
Look, we should know what the police were doing. Was this a strategic retreat? And if this was a strategic retreat where the police were directing people into the Capitol, we should see mitigations, if not outright dismissals, of charges of protesters who were clearly directed into the Capitol and didn't do anything wrong while they were in there. But obviously, AOC is feeding into what her side is calling right-wing conspiracy theories about the Capitol Police, when again, there's not really a conspiracy theory to it. I mean, there is, but what I'm talking about is the police being outnumbered, all these people pressing up against the gate, them doing a strategic retreat, trying to direct people through the Capitol to minimize harm, and then that ultimately leading to some nefarious actors committing harm while in the Capitol. But again, AOC is going to be seen as somebody who's pushing right-wing conspiracy theories, but she's going to get away with it because it's anti-cop, and as long as you're anti-cop in the Democratic Party, it doesn't matter, even if you're contradicting other narratives of the Democratic Party. But hey, those are just my thoughts and opinions about this whole situation. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias, support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about AOC's freakout. Till next time.